We're back. I'm Mrs. Henry and
I'm Liz.
and what we're going to be doing today is experiment 9.2. We're going to take a look at what happens when something is burned. What are the reactants and what are the products? So we're going to use oil because we know from our previous experiment that oil burns very well. So what we have here is we have just a little bit of oil, just like the directions say, 1.5 milliliters of oil in our dish here, and we've used a paper towel as a wick. Now, the directions tell us to get the mass, and the mass is going to include the bowl, the wick, and the oil. So, Lizzie, we already have the balance set up. If you could let us know, and I'll write that down.
Sure thing.
So, Lizzie, what is the mass of the bowl, the wick, and the oil?
It would be 269.5 grams.
Okay, I'm going to get that down into our data table. Now, we're going to use this device up here today. This is called a bell jar, and you can see it's sort of like the shape of a bell. And what's really neat about a bell jar is it's really thick glass. And it's able to keep almost everything inside. It makes almost a perfect seal there. And it's really going to help us to collect our data so that things don't go up into the air and out into the universe, and we mostly keep it inside of our bell jar. So before we begin, we need some data about what's happening inside the bell jar. We need to know the concentration of oxygen, and to find that out, I'm going to use this O2 sensor. I'm going to put it inside of our bell jar. And the concentration of oxygen to start off with is 19.5%. That makes sense. We say there's about 20% oxygen in the air. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the concentration of carbon dioxide. And Lizzie, for this, we have a pretty special tool. Do you want to show it to everybody?
Sure thing. So this is our tool that will help us measure the concentration of carbon dioxide.
I'm going to put that underneath the bell jar as well. All right, so now that we have that under there, I know that you were checking that reading. What was that, Lizzie?
665 parts per million.
665 parts per million. And you may remember that a part per million is really tiny. We talked about this in class with that big jar that was mostly blue beads. We said there were a total of 1 million beads in that jar, and one bead was like 1 part per million. So 665 parts per million, that's not very much. Okay, now we need humidity, and for that we have a tool called a hygrometer. The hygrometer measures humidity. It measures the amount of water vapor in the air. It's kind of a humid day today. It was raining earlier. So I'm going to put this underneath our bell jar. It's getting crowded in there. And it's showing 53% humidity. Now I know that it talks about absolute humidity. We're going to stick with percent humidity. It's something we talked about in our weather unit. So we're going to use percent. All right. So now, Lizzie, we need to have our oil here. We're going to quickly get it under that glass container so I rely on your lightning quick reflexes and allow that to do there. All right. So we need to set it on fire and then put it under. We're going to allow that to continue to burn. You can see it's a pretty bright flame in there. I don't know if you can see this, but there's some mist forming on the inside here of our bell jar. It's not as clear as it once was. All right, so now our flame has gone out. We have some data for you. For the, let's start with the concentration of carbon dioxide. And Lizzie, you found that to be 22,021 parts per million. That is a huge jump. Now, I mentioned the fog that has built up on the inside of here. Let's see what our humidity is now. I'll get this data pretty quickly. So the final humidity is 66%, and the concentration of oxygen is 16%. So we've seen the oxygen go way down and the amount of carbon dioxide come way up. We've also seen the humidity, or the amount of water in the air inside the jar, increase. So the last thing we need is the mass of the bowl, the oil, and the wick.
So the mass is going to be 268 grams.
So this mass changed again. It went down by 1.5 grams. Almost all the oil was consumed in that experiment. So our reactants were the oil and, well, what other thing was used up? Look at your data table. The products we can see in our data table, what increased. So you would be able to figure out some of this chemical equation just by using the data in the table. All right, that's it for now. Thanks, everybody. See you later.